to today's Central Hounslow Area Forum. Can I remind everyone that tonight's meeting is being recorded and it's not being live streamed, so a copy will be published on the Council's YouTube channel. Can I also remind everybody of the marketplace and the stall that will be taking place afterwards. Moving on to agenda item number 1. Are there any apologies for absence, declaration of interest, and any other communication?
Yes, so we've received apologies from Councillor Amjad Garol, and we have received apologies for lateness from Councillor Chopra and Kiani.
Sorry, it's Ajmer Grewal.
Yes, thank you. And Councillor Karen Smith. Okay.
Moving on to agenda item number 2.
Sorry, Chair, can I just say, as I spoke to you earlier, I need to leave early, about 7 o'clock, to go to another meeting. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Moving on to agenda item number 2, the minutes of the last meeting held on 10th of November 2022. Can I propose that the minutes be agreed? Thank you. Can I moving on to agenda item number 3, which is the police reports. Can I please invite the officers to introduce their reports? Questions can be asked at the end of the report.
Hello, good evening. My name is Sergeant Kaz Hossainzadeh, and I'm Sergeant for Hounslow Central, Hounslow East, Isleworth, and Hounslow South. We are lucky in our area that we got a good number of officers in my ward. For Hounslow Central and East, I got 3 PCs, 1 PCSOs. For Isleworth, I got 2 PCs, 1 PCSO. And for Hounslow South, I got 1 PC, 1 PCSOs. Regarding the report, our priorities for Hounslow Central is violence and transport hubs, drugs in Temple Road, Holly Road, and surrounding area, and burglary in Hounslow Central area. Regarding Hounslow East, we got violence against women and girls, vags in parks and alleyway, and antisocial behavior. In the last 3 months, the team has done a fantastic job. There was a number of burglaries in the area, especially from a number of houses or places like Westgate House in London Road, Eden House, and again in Westgate House, which the suspects have been arrested, charged, and sent to court. We also arrested someone for 11 shoplifting in Holland and Barrett, and she had been charged and sent to court as well. We had a ward panel that I attended myself, and another one is planned for end of June. That is for East and Central. And regarding Hounslow South, we have done high visibility patrol in that area, lots of briefing, coffee with coppers, and antisocial behavior warning has been issued as well. And that's it from. Thank you. Isleworth will be next week. So.
Hello, my name's Sergeant Randauer. I'm a sergeant on the Hounslow Town Centre team. I think this has previously been mentioned, but there's basically 1 inspector, 3 sergeants, and 21 constables. Those numbers have slightly reduced, but we take, obviously, ownership of the main high street and some surrounding roads. We deal with theft, shoplifting, general high visibility patrols, proactive operations that we plan, and we were set up about a year ago now. We've been running for that year because obviously there was a need for the high street, because ultimately it was just response team officers that were dealing with that, so people that take 999 calls, and they were abstracted from the high street, so we'd get antisocial behaviour that's increased, more pickpockets, begging, things along those lines. So obviously I'm here as a representative for those teams. Some of the sort of operations that we deal with are sort of drugs operations. We do plain clothes in the local parks, Inwood Park, places like that, to sort of reduce violence ultimately. We work on intel also, so intel that comes in, we will deal with those. We also do, like I said, plainclothes operations, knife arches in local sort of like Hounslow Central tube station, places like that, to try and detect knife crime. And we work with local schools and partners, etc. Some of our priorities are sort of violence against a person, including robbery. That's quite a hot topic and will be in the figures that we'll discuss. Antisocial behaviour and drugs, there's a lot of schools local, so we get a lot of antisocial behaviour, vulnerable children that are getting involved with drugs, etc., that we're dealing with. And also theft. Theft's massive on the high street with retail and pickpockets. So those are some of our priorities that we deal with generally. And figures-wise, stops, I think they're shown as 687 in the last year. So that's March 2022 to 2023, which 20% are positive. So that will be an arrest of some sort, or whether that's a penalty notice that's been given out. One of the issues we've had as a force ultimately is staffing numbers. So there has been flexing from the town centre team where they've had to help sort of safe emergency response teams dealing with 999 calls and things along those lines. But that's all I've got to add at the moment. But yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is PC Brodie Duncan. I'm a ward officer for the Hounslow East, and I am the SPOC for Violence Against Women and Girls, and that's specifically the Walk and Talk scheme and Street Safe. So I'm just going to briefly explain what the Walk and Talk scheme is and Street Safe. The Walk and Talk is an opportunity for women and girls to meet with female officers, walk about the ward and discuss issues relating to their safety. So it's a good opportunity for us to hear from members of the public and for them to lead the session. And then following that, we can implement any sort of long-term solutions to tackling those concerns. We will conduct proactive and reactive ones. So the reactive ones will be in response to an incident that's occurred against a woman and girl. And the information about this is disseminated through OWL and they're promoted through Twitter. So if it's something you'd be interested in attending, you can also contact your ward officers and we can look to specifically organise that with you. Next we have Street Safe, and this is a fairly new scheme and website that the Met has been piloting, and it's a very useful tool in tackling violence against women and girls, but also in support of the wider communities. So essentially, it's an opportunity for residents to report areas where they feel unsafe or have felt unsafe. So that could be environmental reasons, such as a lack of street lighting, a lack of CCTV, derelict buildings in the area, or like increased shrubbery that are covering alleyways and paths. There could be social reasons that you'd like to report, and that could be feelings of getting followed in certain places, a rise in antisocial behaviour. And then what happens is that data is inputted into hotspot maps that officers can analyse and look at. All the information is anonymous, so if it's maybe something that you don't feel is a police issue or would never think really to report, you can do so through Street Safe. But I must emphasise, it's not a tool to report crime. Please go through your usual channels of 999, 101 or reporting online. We've also conducted plainclothes operations on Hounslow High Street, and that's involved specialist officers trained in behavioural detection, spotting predatory behaviours, and we've had successful results from that. We've had a male arrested that spat on a female. She was actually one of our officers in plainclothes. He was then highlighted to the predatory offending unit, and he was subsequently arrested, charged, and he's now serving time in prison. So please, any questions? I'm happy to answer them. And I've also got QR codes for Street Safe and some leaflets about OWL. So please sign up. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions to the members first, and then I'll open it up to the public. Yeah, Councillor Agrawal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation, police officers. There are a couple of issues in the high street. I have seen the news in Harrow. There are some gangs operating. They go into banks, and if somebody takes some money out from them, they follow them, and then they rob them, obviously. That's one issue. The second one is, apart from the high street, the beggars are now going on traffic lights. Lambton Road, I think the other road, a couple other roads, and they're really bothering people, knocking at the doors. So are we going to do something about it?
So to the first one, in terms of like elderly people, vulnerable people that are going into banks, there's a call. So we do work with banks, and what they do, if they find someone come in that's taken out quite a lot of money, potentially, they will call us, and it's called a banking protocol. So we then attend and just make sure that that person's okay, they're not being scammed of any money or anything like that, and then ultimately we'll try and help them and facilitate them getting home. If they do take out that money, you know, and they leave, and then they get robbed. That hasn't come to my attention on Hounslow High Street, particularly as an issue. But yeah, it's something that we'd look at if it did become an issue. But it's not. It's generally the banking protocols. So yeah, you know, unfortunately, you do get elderly people sometimes. Someone will contact them and say, "We want, you know, £10,000 for this job," and they'll turn up and start withdrawing this money, and the bank will stop them, and they call us straight away. So then we can kind of help them. So and secondly was the beggars. There is a begging issue on the high street. Our officers do deal with quite a few. Obviously, they will hide when they see a uniform, so we do try and do plainclothes operations quite a bit. And there's things that we can issue them, so they get ASB warnings, so antisocial behaviour warnings. That then escalates if it's the same person, and we can ultimately arrest them and sort of put them before the courts in relation to that, of which we do quite a lot. But there are different types of gangs that turn up and start doing this stuff, and then they move on to other high streets. But that's kind of the work we do at the minute.
Can I supplementary?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, what they do is, I've seen on the traffic lights, obviously they're gangs. They put different people on different days. Sometimes there are two ladies working, sometimes two men working, and they pretend they're not able. But when you see them going for a cup of tea or something, they can walk straight.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And the other thing, I know we have a problem issuing them a sort of warning first and this and all that. Can't we do something like, instead of warning them, arrest them and charge them?
We can, yes. Ultimately, it depends on who it is. If it's like ultimately we want to give certain people chances as such. We can't like tarnish everyone with the same brush. So they kind of get the notice first, and it builds our case again. So if someone goes before a court and you say to them, we've given them one warning or two warnings, like they shouldn't be then continuing that behaviour. So we have to kind of go through processes before we kind of just arrest and charge straight away, because it is seen as a lower offence as such. It's similar to, you know, you get cannabis, you know, drugs. Sometimes now people get notices before they go to court, and I guess it's trying to reduce that pressure on the court systems and things like that. So yes, we can arrest, but we have to do our due sort of diligence when we're dealing with these people.
Thank you. I see hands up. I'm going to take questions from the members first, and I'll move on to the public. If you could just hold on. Thank you. Councillor Sharma.
Yes.
Sorry, you are asking about a report regarding Hounslow West. Yeah. I was under the impression that Sergeant Davis has provided a report. However, it hasn't been done. I will raise it with him. Regarding officers for Hounslow West, unfortunately, at the moment, there is no officers for that area. So what we have done, we are sending officers from other area to cover Hounslow West. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know that there is a meeting tomorrow also, police and residents. But I hope they give the report there tomorrow, because the people will be there also.
So, sorry, are you talking about the public meeting tomorrow evening? Yeah. So our head of service will be, for community safety, will be attending that as well. From our side as well, though, we've not had a person in post since January around the Hounslow area. But, you know, I know that there were some points put into the report with what Hounslow West from the police side, and there will be attendance tomorrow at the meeting.
Thank you.
Chair, can I say about the meeting is 3 o'clock in Kingsway Restaurant, Hounslow West. Kingsway Restaurant. Oh, I know that. Hounslow West. It's 3 to 6, I think, or 3 to 5. 3 to 5, yeah? Well, whatever it is, yeah, you know people.
I think it's the one next to the train station.
Yeah. Thank you. public meeting, so anybody who wants to go can go there.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your report. I can see very comprehensive report for Hounslow Heath this time, and I would like to say thank you to all the officers involved. Just a couple of things for Hounslow Heath open space, as you've mentioned in the report as well. There have been a lot of issues with antisocial behaviour, especially within the car park as well. I know there is an issue with the parking, which we are dealing with it, but kind of, do you have any figure where you can say separately you have worked on Hounslow Heath open space and Cozy Lounge? Are you dealing with Cozy Lounge separately on Munster Avenue, or are you kind of combining the figures for that?
Sorry, just in terms of, I don't want to answer any police questions, but what I can say to you, I know there was a lot of engagement work that was done in partnership between community safety and the police around Munster Avenue. And so the previous officer covering the area, Josh Talbot, he had done some engagement with members of the public and with the businesses in the area. They did a walkabout as well in that location. And I know there was some stuff handed over to licensing because of concerns with Cozy Lounge in terms of selling alcohol, etc. Maybe you're aware.
Yeah, that's. I was there myself and Councillor Rahman with Councillor Kiani, but we've been still waiting for the licensing team to let us know what's happening from community safety, which we will chase it. But overall, when I am talking kind of about Hounslow Heath Park on its own open space, what sort of measures, is it weekly or every day? You guys are kind of there, because I have seen police present there myself on my regular walks about, but if you can just kind of let us know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, again, I work on the town centre team, but we still have the radios. I know officers from Hounslow Heath that have just moved on, and they've gone to the violence suppression unit. So they're basically proactive officers that go around Hounslow, Ealing and Hillingdon, and they basically target areas of violence, you know, gun crime, drugs, that sort of stuff. And Hounslow Heath has popped up. It does pop up quite regularly from what I hear on the radio in terms of units going there. I probably went down there 3 or 4 weeks ago to assist some officers in a foot chase with some subjects. There is an estate not too far from there, the Edgar Road estate, I think it is, and obviously there's 2 different roads. You've got, I think it's Staines Road on one side of the heath, and then is it Hamworth Road or Hounslow Road on the other side. So it is somewhere that the proactive units do look at, and the ward officers, when they were there, they did proactively sort of walk through there and stop, you know, use and stuff in that area. Weapon sweeps happen there a lot, and we do recover weapons and things along those lines. Potentially have been put out on Twitter previously, but it's somewhere we look at and it is being looked at.
No, thank you so much. I have attended the weapons suite. It was really, really good with all the team, but thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I see hands up from the public. I'm taking questions from members first, and I'll move on to the public. So if you just bear with us. Councillor Said.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for the report. You were talking about these 2 schemes that you have sort of initiated. I was just wondering if the violence towards women tends to be mostly from the partners, or are you finding it sort of more random attacks? And if so, are they sort of, as you would mention, the spitting, or are they a bit more violent? I mean, I just wondered sort of what the situation was like.
So generally, our violence against women and girls tends to be more domestic related, behind closed doors. So well, I can speak for my ward, we've been working hard to recognise perhaps the grey figure of crime of those women and girls that aren't coming forward. Maybe there could be different reasons ingrained within that, and we're really trying to build a rapport, relationships, reaching out to different community groups to try build trust and awareness so women and girls can feel confident in coming to police with any concerns, issues or reports. Obviously, we've had the incident in Martindale Road, and following that we did do a walk and talk, and that was very, we had a big presence there. We've increased patrols in high visibility and plain clothes. We'll continue to do the behavioural detection operations, which from the result we can see was very successful. And it's just really building up relationships so that women and girls will actually come forward to report, because the figures aren't actually very high for around Hounslow because it is more domestic. But obviously we need to learn more about why is that the case. So by doing the walk and talk schemes and the Street Safe, it allows us to understand a bit more about the demographics and the areas that are highlighted to us.
Just one quick supplementary. Do you think enough of the women residents know about these schemes? Do you think there needs to be sort of more information out there? And one last thought is, the colleges. Are you talking to the young girls there? Because, a lot of girls have got boyfriends at the college, and I know for a fact that there are some that are in abusive relationships there. And they, obviously not domestic in that way, but are you been speaking to them? Are you able to go to some of the high schools and speak to the young girls in the sixth form and, the other years? I think that's really important.
I 100% agree. We've been to the college, Thames Valley College, quite recently, and I'll be liaising with the schools officers to go into the high schools, do presentations, engage with the girls at the schools. But with Street Safe, it's a very new scheme, and for us, it's promoting it internally amongst our officers to promote it, and then externally. It's really been a case of going to any kind of community group and informing our residents about these schemes that are in place. As I said, they're in the new early stages, so it's up to all of us really to get the message out. But we'll continue doing that by going to the schools, going to youth groups, we recently went up to the refugee ACAA centre, and we've done inputs with refugees that are here, maybe are unaware of the procedures in place to support women and girls, and it's very different back in their countries of origin. And yeah, so we'll just keep driving that, keep working together.
Can I just quickly add to that? Again, I was just talking to someone briefly about youth violence in Hounslow, and I guess this kind of comes onto it, like young females in Hounslow that potentially need a bit of support or be spoken to about these schemes and ways that we can help them. I want to look into speaking to like schools officers and see if we can kind of get some form of like, sort of a forum like this where we can talk to them about some of the schemes that we're doing and ways that they can contact us if they need to, etc. And yeah, just if they need help, how they can go about that. And so yeah, with youth violence as such, so stop and searches, etc. But we can incorporate that potentially into it.
The reason I'm mentioning that is I was talking to a young girl about 17,
yeah.
And she was telling me about her boyfriend, and she said, he put a knife to my neck, and she thought it was funny. And she was telling me that some previous boyfriends had sort of treated her, and I just said to her, that's not normal. And so that's why I think it's really important to get to the, I was just horrified. She just laughed it off, and she's 17.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe a listening circle of some sort potentially, because again, some of the feedback I had previously is a lot of these issues can come down to youth, but we don't talk to youth. So it is then it's almost adults that are bringing this to the table, but we're not actually speaking to youth and going, how can we actually help you? What do you want us to do to help you? And then we can kind of implement that. So yeah, it's something we're looking at, and we'll try and progress.
Thank you. I'm going to take one more question from Councillor Bruce, then I'll open it up to the public.
Oh, it's not a question, actually. It's just a comment. I'd just like you to pass my thanks on to the team, the two officers in Hounslow South, who just have been incredibly proactive recently in what they're doing. There's a lot of messaging that's been going out on the OWL network, which is great. I know we need more people signed up to that so they know things are going on, but there have been the walk and talk, the coffee with a copper. I've said that in the right order. Coffee with a copper. Holding street surgeries, which has been great. And few times I've got in touch with Kareem and said, there's this resident who's worried about this. It's not been particularly not a police issue, but they've said, no, we've gone and spoken to them anyway, and had an incident on my road where someone was attacked, and there was a bit of nervousness in the area. I said, would you come and do a street surgery? He said, yeah, next week we'll be down, and they did. I mean, it's really brilliant, and I'm delighted that they're there, and hope they stay. Is all I'm saying.
Thank you. It's nice to get some good, good feedback, to be honest, because from my point of view, I've been in the police 11 years, and yeah, I work with some really good people, and it's nice to actually get some good feedback. and pass it on, because that's what makes the constables, the sergeants, the inspectors actually work harder when they get that kind of feedback. We work hard anyway without that, and you know, getting the negative press, etc. So it's appreciated.
Oh, that's very disappointing. Hounslow South. Hounslow South. It's below where the train station is, so Witton Road, and then all the way over to Wherton Road, and the Wherton Estate is part of Hounslow South. That area there before you get into Richmond.
Thank you. I'll start taking questions from the public. I want to start with the gentleman in the blue.
Hello. One of the things I applaud the fact of the women and the ladies initiative that's going on. I just wondered if there was one or something similar for the LGBT community. Also, if you want to reach out to some more ladies from the refugee community at Holy Trinity Church, at various days of the week we have various different congregations of non-English speaking for the first language and some who speak English, so it might be worth with one of the translators from one of those groups just coming in and doing a little drop-in once every now and then. And on the crime front, I live on Benson Close, which is a lovely estate. There's issues there with drug dealing, as you probably know, and gangs, and those gangs spread out as far as, well, all areas of Hounslow, I think. So I just wondered if there's anything being done on any of those sides.
I know of Benson Close quite well. I was on response team prior to being on this team now. So yes, it's something that's always been on the radar for police officers, emergency response officers, as well as proactive units. Ultimately, it comes down to intelligence. If reports are put on, they'll be actioned by safer neighbourhood teams or proactive units. I don't specifically know because I'm just a town centre, but I think I was cycling down there because I park not too far from there, and there was, I think it was yesterday, probably about 7 o'clock-ish, there was some proactive officers down there. There was 2 vehicles unmarked with their lights on, and they were doing a stop down there. So I think there's stuff going on there, but again, if there's anything that you'll probably see it at like 3, 4 in the morning or something along those lines potentially. Yeah. Yeah. It's like it depends what it is, I guess. If it's someone that is actively drug dealing there and then, sometimes that won't be an emergency call, because obviously they grade these calls, and that'll be as soon as possible, which is within an hour, and within that time they may have left. It just depends on the circumstances, really.
Thank you. Gentleman in the front with the black shirt. Yeah.
Commendable that you're doing everything you can to keep the women safe. What about all the other citizens who are regularly harassed by drug addicts, alcoholics? And this is very fervent outside Hounslow West Station in the High Street. And to follow on Councillor Chaudhry's point, in Hounslow Heath as well. And do your officers walk the entire track from Staines Road to Hanworth? Because the car park area near Staines Road is quite bad. And then if you go further down into the middle of the heath, along that track, there is many drug activities that go on. And so do you cover the whole track in that respect?
Thank you. As I mentioned, for that area, we are we don't have any officers permanent for Hounslow West area at the moment. However, we are sending officers or flex officer from other area to go and cover that. I have myself been on that area, Hounslow West, done patrol on a number of days. It is busy area. We are doing foot patrol, high visibility patrol as well. But as you know, we can't be there 24/7. So if there is an incident, you have to report for response team, and we will pick it up. However, we are short on that area at the moment. But if you give us...
Can Can we please keep it to the question? When it's your turn, I'll give you the opportunity to ask the gentleman. I understand that, but if you could answer the gentleman's question, when I come to you, I'll ask yourself a question.
But if
you've taken the officers away from Hounslow Heath, so this begs the question: what are your priorities then? Why are you taking them? Somebody who's designated for Hounslow Heath, why are you taking them away?
I said Hounslow West. We got
Yeah.
officer for Hounslow Heath.
Well, Hounslow
but-
West and Heath
yeah.
are joined with each other almost. So.
Yeah, correct. But at the moment, we are trying to get officers from other area to join the SNT. But as you know, there were a number of officers during November and December, part of January, that had to go to response team to cover that area. And that is the reason for this.
Okay, just one last thing. Oh, the
So I was
gentleman.
just going to try and add on there to
Just-
sort of alleviate. Look, basically, you have emergency response team and then you have safer neighbourhoods teams. You're probably more concerned about the safer neighbourhoods teams, like the officers that are meant to be patrolling. For Hounslow, they are lacking a lot of numbers. So what happened is a lot of these officers went to emergency response teams to kind of bolster their numbers because they deal with 999 calls. If you were to call now, something's happening at home, someone's being attacked in the street, a robbery, these kind of things, there's a major car crash. Those officers were dealing with so many calls that there wasn't enough of them to deal with those calls. So they've kind of taken away, so resourcing wise, to have that Bobby on the beat almost walking up and down your street, potentially you won't see that as much because there's one maybe covering quite a vast area. And if they're on annual leave, they're not in on their rest days, that sort of stuff. And then they're having to deal with other things admin wise, you might not see them as much. We do prioritise these things. So if you do call 101 or 999, depending on what it is, 101 is the police non-emergency number, an emergency response team officer will come and deal with that, but they will grade it as to what it is. So if you say there is someone that's harassing someone, that sort of stuff, then it might be more slow time and it won't be an immediate call where they will just turn up there and then, and you'll see from your window that they've just turned up. But yeah, in terms of safer neighbourhood teams, I just want to emphasise they are lacking numbers. It's something we will feed back to the superintendents that manage resourcing and numbers, and they have vacancies there. It's just trying to get those numbers back in, because then it takes away from the emergency response, which is when you're calling 999 in a time of need, really. If we haven't got people to deploy to that, and we have had that on occasion when we've got immediate calls and we've got no one to send, it's prioritising that risk and trying to manage that. But yeah.
Thank you. Please, thank you. I'm going to ask the lady in the end of the row, and then I'll come to you next.
Thank you. Thanks for your update. It's commendable again, and it's obvious that the police are overstretched in Hounslow. I was looking at the statistics for last year, and I think Hounslow Central has the highest crime rate out of all the wards in Hounslow. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think this is related to the massive overdevelopment of housing that's going on with lots of flats? We've got Treaty Centre consulting on converting them into flats as well. We've got flats being built left, right and centre. Do you think that the council should think about approving all these schemes, and it should be proportionate to the amount of public services and infrastructure that's available?
So in terms of, obviously, I can't tell you now whether it is the highest out of all of the wards. Potentially some of the detections have increased due to the town centre team being put there. So we detect quite a lot of crime. If you think that you haven't got officers in an area, so we have, 21 officers, or we're meant to have 21 officers out on patrol, depending on the day, there's 3 different teams. They stop someone, there's drugs found, that's a crime. Whereas if you haven't got officers stopping people, there's no crime. So sometimes these figures are increased and it shows a massive increase, but that's because there wasn't a town centre team before we started within the last year. So some of that, I would like to think, is kind of just figures that are being produced, but we actually have numbers there and we're reducing some things. And in terms of the population increasing, naturally with that, potentially you are going to get more crime. There is that potential, and yes, I guess they're trying to bolster safer neighbourhood teams, and that is the plan, I think, from the Commissioner, is that he wants to focus on that. So that will have to go to senior leadership to kind of work on numbers and resourcing and where they go.
Yeah.
Just in regards to safer neighbourhoods, so in my area, I live in Perkin Close, next to Thompson Road, where there's a warehouse area, lots of drug dealing goes on at night. We do have a very lovely policeman that tries to patrol there. But essentially, I propose to the Hounslow Community Safeguarding Board, Safe Partnership Board, can we put a turnstile gate between the alleyway
so that the drug dealers can't come on their bikes and do the drug dealing quickly, etc. And it was turned down. And you're just shut down as a resident, I'm afraid, with any ideas and proposals. And I just feel really, really disappointed because I completely empathise and sympathise with the police because it's an impossible job.
Yeah, no, yeah, I totally understand. In terms of having turnstiles, etc., put in, that's something probably we wouldn't have much input on. From my knowledge, in terms of that sort of stuff, that's probably potentially more of a council type issue. We could talk to them, discuss it with them, but it's probably going to come down to them. But yes, we have a lot of things that we have to do as police now. We deal with mental health, we deal with accidents, domestic violence, thefts, all of these sort of areas that we have to work on. And obviously, prioritise wise, they get put on a list, and we have to kind of work through those. And they don't stop; they keep coming through. And I speak to some of my friends, and I don't think they realise that what some of the demand is on police. You kind of think, oh, they can't be dealing with that much, but it is like, as a sergeant on response team, you come in and there's 60 outstanding calls, and then you pass it on to the next team, and your team have worked really hard, and they've only got rid of 20, and then 30 have come through. So it's ever growing, and you're trying to constantly try and manage that. So all I can say is keep reporting some of these incidents. You can email your local safer neighbourhood team, and if they have officers in to deal, then they can kind of obviously deploy from there. And if it's a non-emergency, call 101, and then we can kind of work from there.
Thank you. And if you do have any further questions in regards to the permission needed, you can speak to one of your ward councillors, and I'm sure they'll be able to guide you. Thank you. Next question. The mic.
I've lived in Hounslow all my life, and so born and bred here, Hounslow West. And literally, Hounslow West is disgusting now. I don't even go to Hounslow West. I wouldn't even feel safe to walk to Hounslow West. I don't come to the high street. I haven't been to the high street since I was probably about 20, and I'm 46 now. And I went to Hounslow Manor as my secondary school. It's disgusting. There's drug dealers everywhere. The gentleman saying about the people begging, they beg at Sutton Lane on the crossroads by the Great West Road. They beg by the Windsor Castle, where the Windsor Castle was. They beg down at the crossroads at the Wellington Road, Staines Road junction. And if they're men and you're a woman, it is not very nice, them coming up to you and knocking on your window. It's not very nice to see anyway, full stop. But yeah, the fact that Hounslow West hasn't got any police officers, and I do sympathise with the police. We do need a lot more policing. They're building more housing in the area. We do not have enough policing to deal with the amount of people they're bringing into the area. And they're just throwing places up, left, right and centre. We're all living on top of each other. We're all getting on each other's nerves because there's not enough space for everyone. And I just look here, and I'm here now because my mum's still here, but I'd go tomorrow because it's just not a nice place to live. And I can remember when I was a kid, and it was lovely. I live next door but one to my mum. We have drug dealers on the corner, and my mum's 76. She thinks she can go out there and tell them what to do. And I say to her, don't do that. You'll get stabbed, or they'll do something horrible to you. So do not go out the house, right? And I've seen them sitting at the back doing drugs. I've called the police. You dial 101. They want all your information before they come. And then by the time you've got to that bit, and I say, no one wants to remain anonymous. And then they, obviously they can't send anyone, which I understand. I understand what the police are doing and how much you are stretched. And you do need more people on the beat and doing stuff. But I have my 14-year-old nephew that goes to the academy, Kingsley Academy now. He's 14. We are scared to death that he's getting into gangs, and we think he is. There is not enough people going into schools talking to teenage boys about knife crime and about gangs, and they're being recruited into them. And it's not right, and you need to have undercover also police going to these places like these football, I don't know what they've all come up, there's some in Osterley, there's some in Hanworth, these footballing places where they can go and play five-a-side. I can't remember the name of it now, but he used to go there quite a lot, the one in Hanworth. But we were worried that people were there offering for him to do drugs runs for them. And we're thinking, oh, great, he's off the Xbox. He's going to get exercise. He's playing football. No, he's not, because there's probably people there trying to groom him to do that. And it's just, you know, we need to get a grip of what's going on. You know, it never used to be part of, like, London, but we are now part of the whole London vibe. And the gangs and the drugs and all the problems that were in London are now here, and they're on our doorstep, and it's not a good situation. I ring in all the time about druggies and drug dealers and different things that are happening in our area, and there's just not enough of you to do it. And I don't know how the government are going to put more police into place, but they need to. And especially if they're going to build up Hounslow the way they're doing, and you need more police for those amount of people that are going to be living here.
Yeah, and obviously what you've just mentioned there is probably something that is on TV quite a lot. Good Morning Britain, I think it gets mentioned quite a lot in terms of the population's increasing, but the police force isn't necessarily increasing. I think it was decreased quite a lot, and then it's sort of increased back to its numbers from 2010, I think it was. But the population's increased quite a substantial amount since then. Ultimately, we can only go on funding from the government in terms of how many people are recruited, and then people need to decide where officers go. In my opinion, from what you're saying, I think safer neighbourhood teams are vital to the police, and I think the Commissioner has promised that he's going to bolster those, and I think recently they've been bolstered with regards to some maybe senior leadership there, but they can focus on these areas. If you call 101, an emergency response team officer might come out, but you might not get that local support, that local knowledge, and maybe putting the information reports on. So what I would say, if you know of a specific like house or person that's living in and around that area, you can, like, ultimately criminal intelligence reports go on that we review, and if it's a problem then we can deal with it. You can send emails, I think, to your local safer neighbourhood team and say, this is the issue, what is going on about it, and we can kind of actually go, can someone go and deal with that. In terms of the high street, I'll be totally honest, I'm born and bred in Hounslow too. You know, I lived in Hounslow West in Heston for 27 years, so I do know of some of the issues there. I've always gone to Hounslow High Street, and I can kind of see how things have changed. They have tried to, you know, there's some things that have been there since I was a kid, you know, there are, you know, beggars, things along those lines, and we do try and deal with them, but then a new gang comes in, and it's probably changed over time, and we're trying to sort some of these issues out, but sometimes they're there and we get rid of it, and then, you know, like a new team then comes in, and then it just kind of like becomes like that sort of revolving circle. And around youth gangs and schools is something we're looking at. We have schools teams that go to all of the schools, but it's working with the schools. Sometimes it's from the school's point of view, this is what we want from you as the police, and we're trying to push our agenda in terms of, we want to talk about youth violence, you know, we want to get these children early where we can kind of sit them down and go, this is what you could potentially could happen. And today Superintendent Puri and Sergeant Iman went to a workshop, which I thought was really cool, like really good, to be honest, where they're getting children that may go into gangs from local schools, and this is a workshop that'll go forward. I think it's with the council, and they're teaching them about so gang members. I think it's Joshua Talbot has quite good links with, you know, prisons and you know, gang members that are coming forward and wanting to talk to the youth. Yeah. And you know, one of the things they mentioned was street doctors. So there was a street doctor there basically saying, if one of your friends gets stabbed, this is kind of what, you know, you should be doing, you know, and all these... No, I know, but I just kind of think that there is stuff going on, workshops trying to prevent people getting into this sort of stuff, but it's just, it is happening, but it's just we need to get into the schools a little bit more, and we'll look into that again with the VORG, violence against women and girls stuff. So yeah, the population's increasing, there is crime, there is drugs, but drugs is something that, I'll be totally honest, the police probably will never get rid of totally, and that's across the world. Like, you know, it's something that you try and reduce, but because there's a demand for it, you're always going to have these people. And I think, sorry to go on, I know this is going to be quite long, but someone explained it to me as I think it's sociology, the strain theory. In society, people are told by a certain age they need to have a nice white BMW and a house and be married by 27 and all this. That isn't feasible for society. You know, there's less jobs, people are wanting money, they want quick money, and they don't want to work hard for it. And unfortunately, that is an avenue that people go down, and we need, you know, things, social services, you know, vulnerable children, we need to sort of give them a bit more support.
People
Yeah.
need to be going into schools and doing that as a young age. I went to Hounslow Heath
Yeah.
junior school, and we had PC Coates who used to come in, and he used to always be around. He used to be there for sports days. He used to come on day trips with us. He was blimmin' brilliant, and you could just go to him. I used to walk round with him down Standard Road in Heathdown, chatting to him or whatever, and you could tell him about anything or everything, and he was just a lovely guy, and they don't have that anymore.
Yeah, it's, again, social media. Is it, you know, if you're a child at school now walking down the street with a police officer, there's probably quite a negative kind of connotation to that. So,
But if they're at the school, then they build that bond.
Yeah.
And they build that respect for police
Yeah,
officers.
yeah.
At a young age. If you do it at a young age, not before secondary school, you need to be doing it in junior schools.
Yeah.
Then they build that bond and that respect.
Yeah, we still have schools officers, so they are still there. It's just, again, unfortunately, these external factors are starting to come into things, TikTok and Snapchat and things like that. But anyway, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. I think you got a response from Councillor Bruce as well in regards to your question.
Well, just a couple of words on what's been said recently. I absolutely hear your frustration, and it echoes, I'm sure, what lots of people say, and it's what we hear when we go out knocking on doors about the issues that are faced by people in our community. I mean, I feel for the sergeant somewhat. I appreciate you. In the position you've got to be careful about exactly what you're saying, but I can say it in slightly stronger terms. I mean, I put this absolutely 100% squarely at the government's feet. They need to be dealing with this, okay? There is underfunding of the police, there is underfunding of councils, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There is underfunding of education and schools, there is underfunding of health. It's absolutely a fact. There is no question about that, regardless of what anyone in the government says, oh, we're putting more money in, there's more of this and there's more of that. There isn't. In real terms, all of those areas I talk about have had a cut. In actual cash terms, this council are down by almost 200 million in the last 13 years. That doesn't include inflation. That's actual cash. Take inflation into account, we're way beyond that, okay? I hear what people are saying, and I know other people have told me and other people have said, I'm the Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Development, so planning and development and all of that falls under my portfolio. We need to be really clear about what this idea, oh, we're just overdeveloping and overbuilding, and that causes this and that causes that. The underfunding of all these areas, including the council, have a dramatic impact on the lives lived by residents, including myself. I live in the borough, I live in Hounslow South, and used to live in Heston when I was younger. What we're talking about in terms of development is we cannot say no to developers. If someone owns a site and wants to put in an application, the council is required, absolutely is obliged, to listen to that application. Now, there are national planning laws, there's the London plan, we have a local plan in place, but they all need to be absolutely clear about the criteria for development or not. And if developers meet the criteria, saying no just means they go and win on appeal. Because that happens, we do say, our planning committee, Chair of Planning is sitting right there, we do say no as an authority. The officers, the team that I lead as a councillor, but the officer team in the planning department push back on developers. We want the best things for our borough. We want the biggest flats and houses we can get. We want the nicest looking places. We want the most money spent on the local parks, which we get. But just saying no isn't an option. So we are required to have housing here because there are targets. We're required by the fact that the planning laws are in place that mean that it's mostly in the hands of developers. So we need to work within that framework in order to make the best of what it is. It is very challenging. It's challenging anyway for the council and for the police and for schools and for health. But it's even more challenging because this government are absolutely useless. And I say that unequivocally. Unequivocally. And it is beyond, for me, it's beyond Labour and Tory and left and right and whatever. Clearly, as a Labour politician, I would want a Labour government, and I think that would work much better. They have better ideas and whatever. But, it is just, in the last 4 or 5 years with, the 3 latest prime ministers that we've had and the 3 latest iterations of the government have been absolutely diabolical in supporting our most vulnerable people and our most crucial services. I've got no qualms in saying that, and I'll repeat that forever. That's not to say, last point, Chair, I promise, That's not to say we get it right all the time. And we absolutely want to hear from people. It's why we come to these sorts of meetings. It's why we go out and knock on doors and listen to residents. And it's why we understand and try and do something about the frustrations you have. And it's the same with the police. So, you know, we hear you. I'm really glad you're here and saying all these, because I just want to say that we're here and listening. But I do want to respond and say the reality of the situation we, council, police,
Okay,
and the rest find ourselves.
Okay, but can I also say that the fact is you're building all this housing, but where's all the other stuff to sustain it? Where are the new schools? Where are the new infant schools? Where are the new junior schools? Where are the new secondary schools? Where are the new doctors? Where are the new dentists? Where are the new hospitals to take all these people on? What about all the extra traffic, all the extra parking?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I'll respond to that very clearly. So in terms of schools, I'm a teacher as well as being a councillor, and I used to be lead member for education. In terms of schools, we have very clear projections on numbers, and we know exactly how many, and it's obviously revised every year depending on birth rates and stuff. We know what's needed within the local area. And there is actually a plateau of young people now. We don't need more school places. So that's why there's been a huge amount of additional school places being built in the last 10 years. I'm sure lots of you will have seen new schools and new buildings going up around schools. That's not needed anymore at the moment. You're right in terms of health and doctors and GPs, but that is on the NHS and on the health to ask the council to look at developers and say, right, this development's going up, you need to supply what's called S106 or SIL money in order to support that. They have to do that in order to achieve that money. And I'm afraid they don't always do that. No. They don't always do that, and that's on the NHS. But the problem with the NHS is they are underfunded, understaffed, and under pressure as well. Exactly. So this is not top of their priority list.
Exactly, so stop building.
Can we please maintain
No.
Please? Sorry.
But on the police, that's an equivalent thing. Yeah. That's an equivalent thing.
Stop building.
Well, but I explained why we can't.
Sorry.
I explained why we can't.
You have to wait your turn.
I could go on forever about this.
You'll have to wait your turn. You'll have to wait your turn, sir.
Who have lived there all their life. That's not fair.
But a lot of the housing that is being built here goes to residents who are here. We get, our inboxes are full of overcrowded people.
My sister has 3 children. She has a son with ADHD, and she has a young 3-year-old. They are in a 2-bedroom place on the Bath Road. They will not give her anything more than a 2-bedroom. Her daughter has to sleep in the same bedroom as her. My nephew has his own bedroom because he has ADHD and he doesn't sleep at night. And that flat is disgusting. It's full of mould. It's on the Bath Road. There's druggies round there all the time by the church. It's not safe for the children to go out there. It's disgusting. And do you know what? She would like somewhere else, but she will never get it because they've told her she's not entitled to it.
Councillor Bruce.
And that's why we need more housing. For that very
But she
reason.
would never get that.
Can I stop you guys there? This is the forum for the police. I'm sorry. Your questions if you have any questions for any of the cabinet members, you can wait till the open forum, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer it. But Councillor Bruce is going in a few minutes. If we have any more questions, the lady in the second row, she had a hand up for quite a while.
Hopefully that's on right. I've probably got a very projective voice anyway. I'm under Tom's in the Hounslow South, but I'm one of the neighbourhood wardens. Just off something one of the councillors said, you mentioned about scams and things at banks. So from the role that I have, I can assure you, as of November last year, Barclays, NatWest, HSBC, Santander, all on their websites, have very interactive videos that even the elderly can. It's literally a YouTube clip on things to look out for at ATM machines around you. I know it's very common in our culture. I don't know why parents do it, but they'll go out and take out cash wads to go do a Tesco run when they could pay on the card. But there are very useful tips on them, how to put the money away and how to stand at an ATM machine. Also to look out for tempered and tampered ATMs. All of them have lights on them, so this is out to everyone who's in the Hounslow Borough. If a light is flashing continuously or you have any scratches, you shouldn't be using the ATM anyway. You should be trying to avoid them and go report it. Every single one of them has a number and a serial code. It's up to us to take a bit more sort of responsibility. Of what the lady in pink said, I 100% sympathise with you. I'm Hounslow South, and I can honestly say I have to take myself away from the area and come back and be very reflective and bite my tongue because our roads aren't safe anymore. At at all. And I understand that you're underfunded, but you need to put a bit more trust in communities as well, council and police, in that we would more than happily support, like Spock, I think it's a wonderful idea. But how about going into schools and asking the schools to run back in 90s and early noughties? All the secondary schools used to do through Orange Theatre workshops. They used to get police officers, very similar to the one that you mentioned in junior school, because Chatsworth used to do it as well, and that's a primary school, is officers would come in, didn't have to be every month, every week, it could be once in the whole year, and say, right, here's school, here's a pack, we'd like you to deliver it. They're little drama classes that you can run yourselves in an English class or in a drama class. We want the kids, both genders, or all genders even, if we're going to be completely sort of like diplomatic about this, but you have to start at a very young age to encourage people to know, to look out for the signs for violence, to look out for the signs of aggression, grooming. It would be really nice if you guys could maybe reach out to primary schools, even that once a year visit, and set them up. I guarantee by the time you come around to the following year, you've got kids who already know actually that is not appropriate behavior. The kid that pulled on my arm as a kid is not appropriate behavior. The use of certain language is not appropriate, and it sets the seed. When you go into secondary school, if you did something similar, do you have any plans to share some of the Spock? Because I know from going to an all-girls school in Hounslow, we used to have a head teacher who endorsed getting the police to come in once annually, even at a school fete, to build that trust up, to say, okay, yeah, in today's modern day, it don't look cool to be stood next to someone in a uniform, whether you're a police officer or a bank worker, I'm telling you straight, it doesn't. But having a social media page, which is more about the community running it. We want to hear, we're not going to share what you say. You can send us a message, we'll look into it, and we'll put a post up that answers and responds back without naming and shaming anyone. The thing that I wanted to bring up in terms of safety generally, I'm in Hounslow South. I don't know, I must have reported it over 106 times in count that I'd noticed these stickers going up around the area, which were just looked like a European music bands. And it took me about 3 months into the pandemic to figure out that they were stickers that are put up on places like garage doors or on the back of people's bumpers, very hidden to residents, because they're used as pickup points for drug deals. And I don't know how many times I reported it. I just got told that I'm going crazy, or no, we're looking into this. We're aware of the area situation. It's almost like you guys react after something's done, where it should, and I understand the numbers, but I'm just saying maybe do stuff that empower your community. Is there any plans that you guys have to get communities more engaged? I know from being in Tom's Warden, we've got more neighbourhood watches that probably do patrols. I don't think I get to bed till 2 o'clock in the morning purely because I'll have a WhatsApp group going off to say, did you hear someone outside? I'm literally having to get up in my pajamas and go do a walk. But is there anything that you guys can do to say that you're getting more community involvement where your numbers are short? Is there something that council's doing to help increase your recruitment drive, even if it is community police?
So one of the sort of things you mentioned is like schools. I think I mentioned it earlier. There are schools officers that still like they're not policed at all. I think Julie Dracup does some of the Hounslow schools, and she's really good. Like it probably is quite cool to walk around with her. To be fair, so we do dig into that. It's something I personally want to do is try. Obviously, being from the local area and things along those lines, is try and do some more workshops. So these things are happening, and we are trying to dig into some of the youth and sort these problems out at source. In terms of numbers, the amount of intelligence we get day to day is massive. So with a reduced staffing number, to do a proactive operation is quite difficult, because some of the things you're saying, you have to then start getting surveillance authorities and things like that, and they need teams. You can't, as an officer on their own with maybe 2 or 3 years it can. this is it. So again, you just have to submit that to us and we can kind of look at it, but it's whoever receives that. So if you've got a safer neighbourhood team officer who's looking after the whole of an area on their own, to try and like facilitate that sometimes can be difficult. It's something we would look at and again assess, and we're constantly getting intel day to day. So if it is a problem, it's something we can maybe do a warrant on, you know, and then kind of get officers to patrol high visibility patrols, but that might move it away. So we'd have to put that to a proactive team. So some of the stuff they're getting, we can be reactive because we're ultimately dealing with stuff that is coming from the public and trying to be proactive around it. We need some of these things we need you to tell us about because we might not know of these stickers that are going up. And lastly, mobilising the public. There was an incident at the Gurdwara Martindale Road, I think it was, and we were doing some community patrols around there. A Sikh female was assaulted there. And again, we had a lack of numbers, and one of the things we asked is whether we can do community patrols because they had their own Sikh community patrol, and we were like, well, we'll go out with you, you know, to bolster the numbers as such, but again, improve that trust and confidence in policing because we are from the public and we want to sort of work together. It's not working against each other, and so yeah, that sort of responds to that slightly.
Thank you. I'm going to take one final question before moving to the open forum from the gentleman in the left.
Thank you. I'd just like to, if we could unpick a little bit further about the degree of understaffing, under-resourcing within the neighbourhood policing teams, because that's the real basic level for the issues that residents have been raising tonight. My reading of the reports is that there are 5 dedicated ward officers across the 5 wards in this forum, and that which means that the minimum number of dedicated ward officers should be 15, 2 PCs and 1 PCSO per ward, and that if this report is correct, there's only 5, so 1/3 of the minimum resource. So, and this is one of the issues which is was highlighted in the Casey report. This is evidence of neighbourhood policing, of borough policing, being the poor relation and treated as the poor relation by the Met and by the Home Office in terms of its funding. So my question really is, first of all, are my calculations right that it's that you've currently only got 1 in 3 of the neighbourhood policing officers that you should have as a bare minimum? And then what action can residents here, councillors here, and our MPs who are not here take to get resource into these into these neighbourhood policing teams now, this month, April, May, so that the next time that this forum meets in probably in June or July, you've at least got the basic level of resource to do the job that's expected of you. Should we be writing to the Commissioner? Should we be writing to the Home Secretary? Should we be picketing Hounslow Police Station and inviting the media down? Should we be picketing New Scotland Yard? Should we be, who is the decision maker that has not allocated resource to our local teams, our neighbourhood policing teams in this area? Can you please be explicit on that, and what we, the councillors and residents here, can do to fix this problem now, not in 9 months' time, 12 months' time, 24 months' time, but now in the next 8 or 10 weeks. Thank you.
So there's not a lot I can kind of do as a sergeant, unfortunately. So in terms of the rank structure, you have a police constable and then a sergeant. We're the first line managers. I think previously there was a superintendent that attended this meeting. He may be able to give you more scope in terms of how that decision is made. So there's a higher than us as an inspector, chief inspector, superintendent, and then a chief superintendent for Hounslow, Ealing and Hillingdon as such. So they have more overview in terms of resourcing, where they can pull people and where they can take them, and they look at risk management. Again, like I said, there's the two departments, as you mentioned in the Baroness Casey report, emergency response teams and then safer neighbourhood teams. It's their decision, I guess, superintendent level or chief superintendent level as to where we're going to put people. So it's something we'll feed back and let them know, because that's been a common theme of that's been mentioned here. And we can't. If I could give you the answer, I would. But again, as mentioned, understaffing, things along those lines probably come down to it. We take away from emergency response teams, and they're going to be asking, and there'll be people. And again, it's understaffing. I'm sure if we could get the numbers, we would put those on.
Yeah, it should not be a choice between response and neighbourhood policing. Both of those teams must be resourced at the level, at the most basic level. Somebody mentioned 2010, where the last time that we had a decent government. At that time, a ward safer neighbourhood team consisted of 6 officers. It consisted of 1 sergeant, 3 PCs and 2 PCSOs. The Met's turnaround plan is set an ambition of getting the best possible neighbourhood policing, yet they make no aspiration, no statement, no indication of resource to get back to that level. So it should, the Casey report has highlighted that resource has gone into elite and specialised services at the expense of both response and neighbourhood policing. We should not be falling for playing one off against the other. And yes, I understand the hierarchy of through to the BCU commander. I understood that there is now a borough superintendent. I don't know who that is and why they are not here today, but I would impress upon the councillors in particular to make sure that the borough superintendent and the BCU commander actually front up in Hounslow to answer these questions and the issues that the residents have raised. Unless you've got resource to do the basic jobs, then all these other interventions are just so the schools work, diversion, etc., that's just a pipe dream. So we've got to get the basics right, and we've got to get the resource. So that needs to be pulled from somewhere and done in a matter of weeks, not months.
We'll put it forward. I think Superintendent Bennett attended the last meeting. A decision's been made for just myself and Kaz to be here today as the sergeants, but we'll put it forward for a superintendent to attend next time. So the resourcing issue, he can take that back, and then they can discuss it with the other senior leaders of Hounslow, Hillingdon and Ealing.
Thank you. Just one quick final question from Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you so much. Just a quick one. As we've all, I think I might have missed something. So what is the plan for Hounslow West designated officer? Do you have any plan, or are we going to be still waiting?
Sorry, on that regards, there are a number of vacancies that has been applied. So we are waiting for officers to apply for that and then move to that area. So that is the plan at the moment.
Thank you very much. And following on from your point, Richard, as you were our councillor at the last administration as well, just to say a quick one, you know, where to come, who to talk to. And we're all happy here, all of us councillors, to come and listen to you, or you can send us an email regarding anything you have. But we did have the superintendent at the last area forum as well. I don't think you've attended that, but thank you very much on behalf of all of us to the police team. Thank you.
And Richard, being ex-councillor, you know the process. You know how the councillors work.
Thank you. We are wary of time, but moving on to agenda item number 4, it is an open forum. So any questions anyone may have, you can ask them now, but can I remind everyone, all questions must come through myself. Thank you. Thank you to the police also.
Before they go.
Yeah, I think the police has.
Hello everyone, I'm just going to leave some OWL leaflets and some QR codes for Street Safe at the front here, so at the end please come collect some. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, before you go, I'm the councillor for Hounslow West, and I know it's already been mentioned before, but we are having a community meeting in Hounslow West where the police will be present. And I was listening to what you were saying just there, and I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying. And we are trying to work hard with the police to try and deal with it. But if you come along tomorrow and ask your questions, you can ask. There'll be a lot more police there who are at higher levels that you mentioned, Superintendent Anil Sharma and Anil Puri. They will be there, so happy for you to come along and address them directly with very senior police members there. Okay, thank you.
What time, Councillor Chopra?
Oh, sorry, between 3 and 5 tomorrow afternoon at Bath Road, Hounslow, Kingsway Banqueting Hall.
Thank you.
I'll leave you these leaflets out and people can pick them up from outside the hall so they can see that as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Do you have any more questions from the public?
Is this an open question now? Yeah. Okay. What is being done about the problem of fly tipping in the borough? Let me give you an example. I live in Cardington Square. Outside Cardington Square is an area where Thames Water have pipes running underneath, which is now gated. Every single day, there is nothing but fly tipping going on. The last time, and it's a shame that Councillor Umair is not here, because at the last election, he was round the street, and I asked him to put up why don't the council put up some cameras? His answer was short and blunt, that that kind of problem does not warrant cameras, and cameras will only go. I got the gist from him that council will only put up cameras where they can make money, fines, street, car parking and things like that. So what is the council actually doing about this problem of fly tipping, which is causing a knock-on effect where you have like foxes coming off the Hounslow Heath Nature Reserve? They are ripping up the bags, rubbish is in people's drives, it's in the streets, and Cardington Square is also where that stretch of road where Maria's Cafe used to be is a point where a lot of drug dealing is going on, and it's been reported many, many times, but you see no response, or nobody even comes and sees what the problem. There are people who are openly exchanging drugs in that part of the street. But that aside, the biggest problem is the fly tipping. In that section of the road, I have observed people who drive taxis, they come and park there, maybe for their break reliefs, but all then I see them is they are basically consuming alcohol. Bottles, cans are left in bags by the curb. They're not even picked up. And that begs the question, if they're taxi drivers, why are they drinking and then driving their taxis and all that kind of thing? You need an undercover to catch this out. Taxi drivers are drinking in that part of Cardington Square and then drive off to do whatever they're visiting. Yeah. So basically, number one question for me here is the fly tipping that's happening there. And, so what is the council doing? Especially in that area where the Thames Water pipes are, which has a gate. I can show you some pictures on my phone now. The amount of fly tipping that is happening. I've got pictures with me now. More than happy to show them to you now, or upload them to wherever you want me to upload them to.
Thank you. Councillor Grill will respond to that one.
Thank you for your question. Part 2 and part 3 of your question is the police question. They have already answered, and you can go to the meeting tomorrow and ask them. That's the police job. Fly tipping, yes, it's a national thing, but in Hounslow Kingsley Road was the worst one for fly tipping. What they've done is they got a special team there now. They go 5:30 in the morning, open the bags, and if they find any address there or name there, we find them. We have found more than 400 people already. With this team, and Hounslow Highway is proactive now. They go around to look at. So we have reduced the fly tipping in Hounslow by 20% already. And we're working on it, trying our best to do as much we can. But who is doing it? The residents. If you see them, residents are landowners are residents as well. If you see them, please report it. And we will be happy to take action on that. Number two, there's an app called Fix My Street. Download that app. That'll be clear within 24 hours. Thank you.
In the morning. So when I asked Councillor Romero, why aren't you putting cameras at the places where people are fervently doing it, he flatly refused. It's not in their interest to put the camera up there. You know.
Yeah. No, through you, Chair.
So if you put cameras up there in places that people are regularly fly tipping, and you can see my pictures that every day there's a different pile.
Okay, can I
Can
I answer the question? Number one, cameras are not 100% cure for it. The one reason is if you put a camera at A, they go to B. If you put another camera at B, they go to C. And we can't put cameras everywhere. That's one reason. Number two reason is camera is only useful if they use, say, cars or vans to apply tip. If the person comes there, person probably lives 100 yards, camera only see up to 20 yards, 30 yards, 50 yards. And camera will not recognize, the people looking at that, they would not recognize who the person is. So it's good if somebody comes with a van or car, but individual doing it, camera is no good. And cameras, we can't put everywhere. We can't put every state. If they move, camera put A, they move to B. Put another camera at B, they move to C. It's people, we have to teach them. We are teaching them. We are going to schools and telling children who are sort of not speaking English, tell your parents not to do that. As I said, we are responsible residents. We have to take this on. If you see anybody doing it, please report it.
In your answer, I just find it hard to believe that a resident will pick up 15, 20 bags and do fly tipping, you know.
No, I said report it.
We do report it. We've engaged with Councillor Romero. As, you know, I wish he was here today.
I'm going to stop it there just to give other people a chance to speak. There's a gentleman at the back. I don't think he's spoken yet. If I could take his question. If you do have any questions and you want to take it further, the councillor is still here afterwards. You're more than welcome to approach him and discuss any issues that you may have with them. But there is an order in place, hence why I'm not missing you on purpose, sir. But I just want to take it from this gentleman first, and I will come to you afterwards. There's one gentleman before you, then I'll come to you.
A quick question. The council is committed, I hope, through its strategy, to provide facilities for disabled people, for aged people and others to contact them. Now, there are numerous facilities the council has pushed online and does not provide alternatives, like, for instance, parking permits. You cannot obtain a parking permit in a normal way without logging a system online. When is the last time that you, as a councillor, tried to actually contact the council by telephone and be directed to a service by telephone? It is extremely difficult for an aging population with a limited tactile facility to actually use a computer, and at best, they can use a telephone. What is the council doing about providing those facilities?
I'm really sorry, but I couldn't really hear much of the question. Sorry, sir.
Well, I can repeat it. Can you hear me now? Good. What is the council doing about providing facilities for the people who are not able to use an online service to contact and obtain services from the council? For instance, parking permits are only available online. There is no facility to obtain a parking permit or a visitor's parking permit by using a telephone service. There are other services which follow suit. And some, if you try to use the telephone number prescribed for that service, you will never get through to that service. What is the council doing about its obligation to provide services to its residents who are not capable of using those limited services? Thank you. Did you hear me now?
I heard you, thank you.
Was it clear enough?
Very clear, very clear.
Thank you.
No problem. It was a very good question, but unfortunately I don't have the answer to that question at the moment. However, if you do want to approach me at the end, we have written down the question. I can get somebody to contact you to hopefully answer that question for you, if that's okay, sir. Please, if you're going to meet me at the end, thank you. Gentleman in the second row. Yeah. You just wait for the mic.
I'm not sure how many of the councillors or the chiefs of the council drive around Hounslow, but there are a number of potholes everywhere. I was supposed to meet with Timothy Hurley this afternoon to show him with a tour around the area, just some of the potholes. Unfortunately, I had another engagement, so I had to pull out of that. But what can we do rather than fix my street? Because like the gentleman said, he can't use a computer and report such faults. We need to fix these potholes. They're everywhere. I mean, one of the biggest potholes I saw was only last week because I happened to go to meet somebody by Asda. As you go along that road, there's a massive pothole on the way. Yeah, in the middle. And I'm surprised that none of the councillors or other people have even spotted that. It's probably because of your overdevelopment, all the trucks that have been driving down there. So what can we do about these potholes? I think we should have a massive exercise to get these potholes known to the local councillors or Hounslow Highways and fix them ASAP.
Thank you. The view that Paul is in Councillor Grewal's vote.
Talking about the Astor one, I did report that one. I know it took some time to fix it. I did report that to. No, I'm just answering because that's my ward.
In general, you're talking about. Understood.
I'm answering that because that comes in my ward. That's why.
He's just answering it as a singularity for yourself because you mentioned it.
I know it's an issue there, but Fix My Street does help. As we said, has mentioned it. But then again, who's the councillor for that?
Councillor Guy Lambert. That
you can write to Councillor Guy Lambert. He's the lead member for that. He'll give you more information than any of us.
But if I can just come into this, sorry, through you, Chair. I'll be honest with you, we do walk around in our wards. We do know what's happening. We do know about the potholes. If I can kind of account on my hands, there's so many in Hounslow Heath as well. But our lead member is working extremely hard, and us as administration, like you say, it's only one way to do it, via Fix My Street. You can always contact your councillors as well. You can just pick up your phone, call any one of us, and we'll be able to tell you whatever you like. And if you need to have more information, just take my number and let me know how many you need me to, need us to get us fixed, and we'll do that. No problem. I can have a longer meeting with you and Councillor Guy Lambert, and we'll pick that up for you.
Thank you. There's one gentleman at the front row.
Okay, to Councillor Grewal and to Mr. Bhatti. We've raised this issue a number of times regarding parking in the town centre. The town centre HTCN zone is too big. I live right next to the police station on Montague Road. You come one day after 6:01 or maybe 5 to 6 in the evening, you won't find a parking space. Why do I pay money and I do not get parking space on the road? Number one, right? Gold's Gym, they have their own parking. Just people are lazy to park on that road. People who work in Asda in the night shift, they park on that roads, Alexandra Road, Balfour Road, Lansdowne Road, Queens Road, Montague Road. All these roads are full of people, either who work in Asda or go to gym or come to work in the high street using somebody else's HTCN passes, or they live too far from here, who should not be allowed. Why is council not doing anything to shorten the HTCN parking zone and changing the time from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Sunday? Which town centre in London particularly you can find free parking on a Sunday? Number one. Number two, we're talking about Fix My Street in regards to cleaning or fly tipping and stuff. Fix My Street does the job for a bigger fly tipping or something picking up. What about the day-to-day rubbish? I mean, if you walk the roads, Balfour Road, Montague Road, or Alexandra Road or Queens Road, you can see small rubbish every single day in and out. People walk out from the high street, walk past the police station and dump their either McDonald's packets or KFC or anything else. The street cleaning is not that efficient. And the bins, the rubbish bins availability is too scarce. There's only one bin in the parking on Montague Road East, which gets filled up by Saturday morning. And the whole of Saturday and a Sunday, that bin is overflowing, and you can see all the big rats, foxes, and you name it, and all the animals are there in the night, crouching that around. Sunday morning, you can see that all, fill the place in the parking spot. So why there is no pickup on the weekends, or can we not have an extra few bins within the parking, or have some, more along the lines of the roads that leads to High Street and out of the High Street?
Okay, Chair, can I take that? Okay, thank you for that question, and I do know it's a problem. And we only supposed to do one consultation, but I have done two in my board for this to extend the time, are you listening now? To extend the time and also make small zones. Now, the first one, the reply was 6%, and officers cannot work on that. You are making complaint, but people are making complaint. But when it comes to consultation, they don't return the phones back. You can do online, you can do it probably by writing it. So 6% the officers cannot work because other people can take them to the court. Now, second time, the consultation is not supposed to be done within 2 years. I managed to do it second time within 1 year, and the result was 7%. It's in writing. Have a look. I can show you that. Now, again, please do that. We'll do it again because with ESDA now and with the development there now, I know it's more problem with parking. But what I'm doing, I'm working with the officer. We are going to do another consultation next year or this year later on. Please go to people, and I will do it as well. Tell them to return the forms or go online and send their views. They need at least 25-30% minimum to work on it, and we are happy. They are happy to do that. Officers are happy, councillors are happy to do small zones and extend the time. But we need your help.
Yes, on that, like if you look at the new buildings, ASDA, resident in ASDA, they do not have parking rights, so they are not interested in doing consultation. Similarly, many other buildings, the new flats, they do not have parking rights, so they are not eligible and they don't care. Who cares is the minimum number of residents who live on the houses, not in the flats, because flats, people, they don't care at all anyways. So the consultation has to be limited to either residential roads, or you minimize the zone for a consultation, rather than if you go and ask somebody who lives on, like by the petrol station on Great West Road, saying that you want to shorten the zone, why would they, fill up a consultation to shorten the zone or increase the time frame? Because they get easy access to High Street, they can come to work in the High Street, park on the High Street for free. Whereas they live a mile away from where it should be.
Yeah, through you, Chair. The last consultation was done locally, Lansdowne, Montague, Queens Road, and Alexander Road. It was done locally, and the result was 7% on that. That's what I'm saying. We need your help. We need more people to respond to the consultation. Then we can work with you. And so what's your second question?
The people who live too far. So
okay, that's what I'm saying. We done locally.
Yeah,
we have done locally consultation. Second consultation was locally.
Yeah, in that case, the making people aware was not enough. I did fill up the form. I do remember.
You're responsible, but as I said, 7% is not enough for officers to work on it.
Because
that's the problem.
Those areas are mainly rented accommodation. You see, there are limited number of people who honestly care. If there were people who care, then probably you would see more people here, because they are there for a short term, due to its proximity to the station or access to the High Street and all the other facilities. So they, in real sense, they do not care. So there has to be something done, or how soon can we expect the consultation to go through?
But you must agree with me. It's more than 30% people who own houses in that area. I know it's a lot of rental properties. I think more than 50% people own houses. So they should come and help us to send at least consultation papers back.
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to stop you there. If you do need to carry this even further, Councillor Grow will be at the market stall that's happening after the
and also
forum.
If you can sort something out about the cleaning of the roads.
If you need to have a further conversation with Councillor Grow,
that's fine. You can talk to me anytime. You got my number anyway.
I'm going to stop it there. I know people may have further questions, but if you do have any more questions, there is a marketplace stall happening now just outside. All the councillors will be there. You're more than welcome to come and ask them questions and have a chat with them. There's also this feedback form which was given to everyone. If you want to fill that in with any questions or anything and hand that in, I'm sure somebody will come back to you shortly. No, I just want to thank everyone. And just moving on to agenda item number 5, which is the last one. There is no other matters arising or any urgent business? No? Please, I think use Hounslow West. This is Councillor Chopra, is it? Yeah. No. There's one more, but he's not here at the moment. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for attending the meeting. And just a reminder, the next area forum will take place on the 29th of June. And if you want to please make ways to the other area, which is the marketplace, and there's a few stalls that are happening there as well. There's
So
also
we've got
refreshments as well.
in a marketplace just next door. You're
Thank
all
you.
welcome.
Thank you, everyone.